drive. Left-handed flush over the top of Kepning.
Pullback, step back three. Bottom!
Mavericks, it's short. Tip back in. Weaver got it. Yes!
Neely, the handoff. Jones for the tie.
Oh, he's fouled and one.
Presents itself is what you got to take. You can't.
It's knocked away. Still loose. Doherty, the heave. Oh, my God.
Welcome to the Straight Outta WAC podcast.
What's up, everybody? Another episode of Straight Outta WAC Live. I'm going to bring in Chelsea and Daryl with me today on this, I guess, Taco Tuesday, if you want to call it that, per se. I still get chills whenever I listen or see that intro that I put out. Like, it's just the Tevian Jones shot and foul in a wild game, the Sharika Daughtry, heave. Oh my goodness, those are good times, you guys. So, how you guys doing on this Tuesday?
Not bad. It's a little chilly in Southern California. It's actually the coldest week of the winter so far.
Yeah, also freezing in Phoenix. For one.
What's freezing in Phoenix though, Chelsea? Like 65 degrees?
Right now it's 51. I think the high
Ooh.
yesterday was 53. That is very cold for here.
Yeah, that's
My friend
pretty chill
lives
for Phoenix.
like 20 miles north of me, 30 miles north of me, and he was getting like hail that looked like snow. So
Wow.
that's as close as we get to freezing temperatures down here.
Wow. Yeah, it's in the 20s right now in Utah, so I'm a little bundled up. It's chilly. It wasn't chilly this weekend for a few teams. We're gonna, since Chelsea needs to take care of some things, we're gonna start with it right off the gate. You were there. What is this? Global Credit Union Arena? Is that what it's called now? GCU Arena still?
Yeah, I was gonna say still GCU Arena, but yeah, Global Credit Union Arena at GCU. That's what the full name is.
And you were there when they hosted Utah Tech on Saturday.
Yeah, I was
Molly
watching that
Miller's
one.
team hosted Utah Tech, and they were still down with T.R. Brown and Trinity San Antonio, and yet they never trailed.
Yeah.
They led by as many as, I think it was like 26 in the first quarter.
Yeah,
And
they
never
were
looked back.
dominant. They've been dominant. The two games that they have not had Tierra or Trinity at all, I was worried. I was looking at the schedule. I was like, they've got Southern Utah and then they've got Utah Tech, and they don't have arguably their two best players. And they didn't look like they needed them. I mean, they went into the bench. The bench even performed really well. Not what we were expecting from this team by any means when you're missing your two stars, especially like Tierra has been a defensive weapon for GCU and has also been great offensively. Trinity has been so good getting steals, starting drives, getting assists, and scoring, of course. And so to have those two huge pieces missing and still have double-digit wins over two of the top teams in the WAC is just insane and unexpected for sure. This team is just fantastic.
Yeah, and Daryl wrote about it in the newsletter, but the Eric Strip sisters have been really good lately, and then Jada Holland's back now too for GCU. I mean, I think we're on a collision course for February 17th. I'm just saying, February 17th in Riverside is going to be must-watch basketball. I wish that they could get that game maybe on the ESPN Linear Family Networks, but I know there's still a lot of basketball to be played. But what's been the change, Chelsea, that you've seen in GCU since I want to say maybe mid-December, early December, when it still seemed like we weren't sure about the Lopes in terms of like, can they be dominant? And yet they've been dominant, played really well. They beat a good Middle Tennessee team. And just what have you seen that maybe has been the change?
Yeah, I mean, I think really the change with this whole team this season is you've got way more buy-in. They've got almost entirely veterans on this squad. The only quote-unquote freshman is Asha Sra, and she's a redshirt freshman. So I think that's a big part of the success of this team is they feel like they've seen it all. But I really think that the injuries if you were watching that game, Trinity San Antonio, not in this order, Trinity San Antonio, Tierra Brown, and Nadia Evans all went down within about a minute against Middle Tennessee, which was already a fairly close game. And so to have arguably your three best players go down within a minute, Nadia ended up coming back and was the player of the game. I think that really put a fire underneath this GCU team, and I think they knew people were counting them out without those players. I think they felt like they had something to prove. I think they still feel like they have something to prove. And so they came out and just dominated Southern Utah, dominated Utah Tech. And now I don't see a team giving them a whole lot of trouble except for maybe CBU. But with the loss of Grace Schmidt, I mean, that changes the landscape entirely. But when you're specifically looking at GCU, I think the secret is just the bench depth that Molly Miller has been able to put together this year. Players like Anna Osley, players like Asha Sraw, Shea Fano, Olivia Lane is still there covering the paint. I mean, you just have so many solid veteran players. The Eric Strupp sisters have been incredible the last few games. So they just have they have at least one player in each position that can go off on any night. And then as soon as Sydney Palm is back, which should be sometime this month, there's just no stopping this GCU team.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's a good ball club, veteran ball club. Like you said, a lot of experience there. Ooh, February 17th, though, in Riverside. That's going to be fantastic. Daryl, what do you think? What's been the change from what you've seen as well with GCU?
Yeah, for GCU, you know, Chelsea hit on it. The veteran experience Molly Miller's brought in. And you have to remember in that Middle Tennessee game when Nadia Evans, Trinity San Antonio, and Tara Brown went out, had a couple of movies from Anna Osley, and Olivia Lane stepped up, hit a couple of nice free throw line jumpers, and she's been playing well too. But I don't know, you know, Stephen F. Austin's going to have something to say about that collision course in a couple of weeks here, the 25th and the 27th on that West Roadie. It's a very tough West Coast roadie to go Phoenix Riverside and have only one day to prepare.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how SFA bounces back after that loss at UT. We'll get to that game in just a moment. I want to just take a look at the women's basketball resume seeding system standings right now. I want to see if I can share my screen. Yeah, I sure can. So we're going to share it here so we can talk about it. As you can see, California Baptist and GCU kind of have a significant lead. It's kind of like the men's side where GCU has a stranglehold on that one seed right now, but on the women's side, you can see it. Both Grand Canyon and California Baptist California Baptist has almost 4 points total, and Grand Canyon has 3, and then the next closest is Stephen F. Austin at .32. That was updated yesterday. So if we're being honest, guys, I really think that Stephen F. Austin California Baptist and Grand Canyon they pretty much sealed those 1 and 2 seeds unless something weird happens over the next month or so, month and a half, because when you look at this, we'll go down to it. I'll add it again. When you look at it, I mean, if GCU loses at home, it's going to hurt them. Same with California Baptist. But, I mean, there's just not enough here to lose in games that they're probably going to win that would knock them down below SFA, if that makes sense. So, looking at GCU, same thing. The biggest ones are the road games at California Baptist and at Utah Tech. There's the road game at SFA too. So I just don't, and even then they're not going to lose enough to drop them out of those 1 and 2 seeds. I mean, that's the crazy thing. We're in the second weekend of January, and we can almost say that 3 teams have already locked up their seed if they qualify for WAC Vegas. Like, is that crazy to you guys?
I mean, it is what it is. It is a little crazy to think that we are, the first weekend of January, and at least the top 2 seeds have locked up their spot. I mean, if UTA keeps this roll up, they could possibly get to SFA in points.
I just don't know that anybody can catch the 1 or 2. Like, somebody pointed this out to me the other day that, like, with the GCU men, they'd have to lose like 7 or 8 games in conference play to not be the 1 seed. And that's not going to happen. And I don't know that the GCU women or CBU women are going to drop 5, 6, 7 games in WAC play. Like I just think that 3 teams have their seeds locked up already. I'll go out on a limb and make a bold statement with that the GCU men have locked up the 1 seed. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that one. And the GCU women and CBU women are playing for the 1 and 2 seeds, and nobody's going to catch them. Like I don't mean that in a negative light towards any other team. It's just what those teams have done in their non-conference slate and the points that they have. There is no way anybody's catching, unless, like I said, unless CBU or GCU women completely stumble over the next month and a half, which I don't see happening. There's just no way.
Yeah, I think that's fairly safe to say. The question is, what is it? It's a double bye to the semis for the 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, they get the 1 and 2 seeds get to the semifinals automatically.
Yeah, so you're not going to drop enough games for what's the SFA at 0.32 or something like that for SFA to get to the threes.
The women are at let's go down here. The SFA women are at 0.32.
Yeah, you're going to gain 3.28 minimum over the span of 2 months?
Yeah. We got 14 games left, 15 for a couple of teams. Like with the men, the GCU women or CBU women have to lose 6 or 7, WAC games, especially at home, because on the road it won't hurt them as much, but at home it'll hurt. So, neither one of those teams loses at home. Like they play well, their best basketball at home. So there's just no way. Like I said, I'm gonna make a bold statement. There's no way that I don't want to say this. CBU and GCU women are the 1-2 seeds. There's no way anybody's catching them. Same with GCU men. That's my bold statement. I've seen what this resume system is all about. I see how it works. So maybe somebody will surprise me, but I don't think so. I think 3 teams have their seeds locked up once they qualify for WAC Vegas.
I agree with you. And honestly, the teams that are at the top of the conferences are completely unsurprising to me. Okay, there's a little bit of bias there. But I think looking at especially the GCU men's roster, when we were looking at that roster going in, to me, that was like at least a top 2 team in the WAC. And then they went out and got all the crazy wins that they have so far. And same with the GCU women. When I saw, especially when I was looking at who Molly Miller was getting, and then Trinity San Antonio was in that mix, I was like, I don't see a lot of WAC teams as it stands beating GCU. And so far, early on, they're showing that. But like you said, really excited to see them play CBU. There's so many storylines also between those 2 teams in the last couple of years, especially in the Molly Miller era. The one I'm most looking at, I kind of mentioned earlier, Sydney Palma will be back by then. That'll be the first time she finally gets to play against CBU since leaving CBU. So that'll be huge. And needless to say, they've met in the WAC playoffs and all that fun stuff. I mean, there's a million different storylines you can look at between these 2 teams. Obviously, Trinity San Antonio is probably the one we're focusing on playing against CBU. But yeah, that'll be just such a good game. And like you said, I think those are the 2 teams to beat right now, and it's going to be hard to beat either of them. And so to see who comes out on top in regular season play is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, that's you would have loved to have CBU have Grace Schmidt, not out for the season with that patellar tendon issue, just so you could see them both going at each other at full strength. That would have been awesome. But that's the way it happens, and like Chelsea mentioned, GCU has been without Sid Palma when they played CBU. So there's a little, gamesmanship here, which happens. And, the thing is, we're talking about CBU and GCU a lot on the women's side right now. Let's talk about another team that is absolutely red hot right now in Sharika Reich, UT Arlington, Lady Mavs. Avery Brittingham with the triple-double against her former team on Saturday. Talia Clark, the Seattle U transfer, goes off for a career high 27 points. And I think reading between the lines of some of Talia Clark's tweets over the past couple days, there's a little chip on the shoulder of the Lady Mavs right now. Like I really they come to Orem on Thursday to play Utah Valley, where they lost last year. And I was thinking I may not get out of the house this week just because I'm going to be gone next weekend. But I may head over to the UCCU Center to catch that game. We'll have to see how it works out. But let's talk about that team. Daryl, you wrote about them in your newsletter today. Check out the WAC Hoops Nation Substack, where you get 3 men's newsletters, 2 women's newsletters a week. Daryl's was just posted today. But let's talk about this UTA team. How dangerous can they be?
You know, they can definitely be dangerous. I mean, they're on a 5-game winning streak right now. This week, Utah Valley and Seattle U. But they're gonna have a lot of their bigger tests on for the schedule. And in that game on Saturday, the UTA women led for 37 minutes over SFA. It was an 8-point lead at the half, got as high as, I think it was 16-17. But every time SFA made a run, there was an answer, whether it was a Clark 3 or a Clark layup off the high-low action. And it was really shocking to see how easily UTA was able to get to the rim and finish against SFA. I don't think anyone was shocked with the 3-point outburst from UTA, especially Talia Clark. That's what she was brought there to do, was to shoot threes and make them. Yep. But the way they got to the rim and finished was very impressive. And if they can keep that going for, a little while longer, they'll play themselves right into that conversation for that 1 and 2 seed, because they get one more shot at GCU, who beat them by, I think it was 29 in DFW.
Oh yeah,
and they still have 2 shots at CBU.
Yeah, they were 1 and 8 to start the season. They lost at number 8 Colorado by 21 points. That was after the 29-point debacle at home against Grand Canyon in that second WAC game on December 2nd. But since then, they beat Sam Houston. They beat Jacksonville State. Both of those games were on the road. They beat New Mexico State at home as part of that WAC Conference USA scheduling initiative. Then they smoked Tarleton by 24 on January 4th, last Thursday. And they won by 19 over SFA, where, like you said, they led from nearly wire to wire in that win and got whatever they wanted offensively. They, like you said, they've won 5 straight. There is the potential to win 1, 2, 3, to have 8 straight wins. Potential, I'm saying, because they're at Utah Valley, at Seattle, who we know are struggled in WAC play. And then they're at UTRGV on January 18th, where I will be at that game down there in Edinburgh. So they could have 8 straight wins before they host Abilene Christian on January 20th. So Sharika Wright's team is playing well. Like they've been really good. Avery Brittingham's doing what she was brought over to do and being the team leader. Talia Clark knocking down 3-pointers. It's just a matter of getting those youngsters up to speed. And I think that challenging non-conference slate, because you look at the Lady Mavs non-conference slate, they didn't play any non-D1s, right? At South Florida, they had Lamar, they had number 11 Texas, UTSA, Illinois State, North Carolina A&T, number 8 Colorado, Sam Houston, Jacksonville State, New Mexico State. Like, they played a challenging non-conference schedule. And Sharika Wright, when I was in Arlington earlier in November, she mentioned there's going to be growing pains, and there were, but, they've kind of righted the ship here, and it's been very impressive to watch.
Yeah, I mean, who would have, I thought they had what it took to beat Stephen F. Austin, but I don't know that I thought I had them leading by 17 at any point in that game. I thought if they were going to beat them, it was going to be in a, 1-2 possession type game.
Yep. Not
leading for 37 minutes. What was that? What would that be? 95% of a game, 40 minutes.
Yep.
So they're playing some really good basketball, and traveling west is when the teams travel out of state, that's always tough. So we'll see if they can get 2 more this week and push that streak to 7.
Yep. Very true. Very true. I'm going to bring up the power rankings that you guys put together today or for today. We're going to check those out. For everybody that's watching, thank you for tuning in. We'll get to some of these comments. Crystal, I'm glad it's 51 in Houston. I saw there was some hail in Houston last night for that game, but glad you're tuning in. Ray asked if there's any hot seats. I'm going to talk about that on another episode, not today, but I will address that, Ray. I think there are some that are getting very warm right now in Western Athletic Conference basketball. As much as I hate to say that because I'm not a negative, I don't like to be that pessimist, but there's some seats that are warming up big time. But here we go. We're going to bring up the women's basketball power rankings before Chelsea has to leave. Here we can talk about these. Right now, I'm going to try and do it this way so we can see each other. I don't know that we can do it. I can't. Come on. I can't do it. Okay. Anyways, so this is what we're showing. GCU is number 1, California Baptist number 2. I'll have them break that down for you. One win kind of separates those two right now. UT Arlington with its 5-game win streak. And obviously because they beat SFA, that's why they're ahead of SFA. Utah Tech, Southern Utah, which has been without Megan Smith this week. We don't know what's going on there. Abilene Christian comes in at 7. They had a nice road win without 2 of their point guards down there at UTRGV this week. Tarleton, still kind of mixed feelings about them. UTRGV, Seattle U, and Utah Valley kind of bringing in the rear there. A lot of that is the fact that, Seattle U, Utah Valley, and UTRGV have a combined 1 win in 11 WAC games right now. So let's break this down a little bit. So I know fans are going to want to ask, why is GCU ahead of CBU? You guys break it down. I'll allow that. And, I don't want them to give me heat for it, so they give you guys heat for it. So I cover my tail.
For us, I think it was the difference in best win. CBU does have a bunch of really good WNIT wins and that one NCAA tournament win over Portland. It's the win over Middle Tennessee State that puts GCU over the top. At the time, Middle Tennessee was 8th in the College Insider poll. That win knocked them back to 14th in the College Insider poll. So I look at best win out of the and for GCU, it's just that win is the separator for right now.
Chelsea, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with that for sure, and I'm also kind of looking at how the rosters are playing. I think sorry, my dog is excited. But right now I think GCU is playing better basketball than CBU. Despite again losing Trinity and Tierra right now. And still having Sydney Palma out. And then CBU, they lose Grace Schmidt. That's a big hit. I mean, that was, I would say, without a doubt, their best player. And they lose her. And so in my mind, we're looking at roster strength. That's going to move them down a little bit. When they end up playing against each other, I would love to be proven wrong and have CBU, I guess, quote unquote, according to our rankings, upset GCU. But only time will tell. Again, I mean, that is going to be a huge matchup, and that'll really decide who can solidify our 1 and 2 spots before heading into the tournament.
Okay, so the question is, when you look at these power rankings here, if UTA continues to win, if SFA pulls off some miracle, both GCU and CBU go on the road. They're both at Tarleton and at Abilene Christian this weekend. Is there anybody that could possibly move up ahead of either one of those teams that you're looking at right now? I mean, obviously we've talked about UT Arlington and how they've won 5 straight and they're playing really good basketball. Southern Utah was without Megan Smith the other day on Saturday against Utah Valley, and yet they played so well at home to get that win. Deilani Belina and Ava Ulrich were really good. So Utah Tech, I mean, you had that surprising game at GCU where GCU blew them out, but they're still a team that's kind of in the wings. Like their injury, they have a lot of injuries they've been dealing with too. Emily Isaacson's out for the season with the knee injury. Amber Karshner hasn't played a game yet. So is there anybody that can knock either one of these two teams off at some point, throughout the season, or is it just going to be everybody else is kind of playing for 3, 4, 5, type situation?
Right now, my eyes are on TA and SFA.
I think Daryl froze up a little bit, Chelsea. So do you want to break it down?
Yeah, I think what he was going to say was, if you're looking at teams that are going to move up maybe into the top 2 spots, you're looking at UTA and SFA. They're both being coached really well. They both have solid rosters. UTA obviously on that streak right now. SFA just historically just a great program. So I think those are the two for sure to look at. Maybe giving CBU and GCU some issues. But the way that GCU and CBU have been playing, I don't see that happening super soon. But if, one of those two teams goes on a losing streak, I could definitely see UTA moving up to 2. I could see SFA moving up there as well. Really, the WAC is stacked. I mean, you're looking at those, honestly, the top 7, I could see moving up a couple spots at any time. I've always been super high on ACU's roster. I love that the youth that they've had, the core that they've been able to keep together the last couple of years. So I think they're a team to look at moving into that top 5. I just think there's a lot of possibilities for any of these teams. But yeah, the injury troubles to really most of the teams in that top 6 or 7 is going to be a huge story as we continue the season.
Yep. Daryl, you back with us now?
Yeah. So, for me, like I said, I'm keeping my eyes on 3 and 4, UTA and Stephen F. Austin. They have the best chance to move into the top, the 1 and 2. But like Chelsea said, 1 through 7 have a pretty good chance of being able to move spots around. Tarleton, UTRGV, Seattle, Utah Valley are going to need some pretty good wins to move themselves up when it comes to the power rankings. And what was it you said, Kyle? ACU was without both point guards over the weekend.
Both point guards in that win over UTRGV.
Yeah, I went back and watched the film of that game. Bella Earl ended up running point for ACU and did a really nice job, I thought.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Julia Goodenough's team has been pretty good this season. They beat UT Arlington already and lost in double overtime to Stephen F. Austin, which they should have won that ball game. So they get a big test with Grand Canyon on Thursday and then CBU on Saturday. So we're going to know a lot more about the Abilene Christian Wildcats women's basketball team this week.
Yeah, and the matchup. What I look for in that game is, in the ACU CBU game, I'm looking at matchup in the paint with Grace Schmidt out. How will the Lancers defend Addison Martin?
Yep.
I think 3-point. If that becomes a jump shooting game, it's even money.
Yep.
But if Addison Martin goes off, I'm very worried if Addison Martin goes off in that game.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money with that. So we'll see what happens. Chelsea, any last words before we take a break so you can take care of things around? Oh, by the way, Chelsea is a class of 2023 graduate, GCU alum now. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's always
Appreciate
an awesome accomplishment. So any last thoughts as we go into a break here?
I mean, just like I said a minute ago, the WAC is just, really on both sides. The WAC is so stacked. I love how the women's basketball is looking right now, how it's shaping up, how the standings are looking. I think any team can give any team a run for its money at any time. We were saying that last season. I think we were saying that the season before. But this one, I think it's truer than ever. I know we're looking at that GCU, CBU 1 and 2, kind of flipping those back and forth right now. But the way UTA is playing, the way SFA has been, the capabilities that, like we said, kind of 1 through 7. I mean, even Tarleton at 8 has been solid. It's really, it's a fun conference, and just as we get deeper and deeper into conference play, we're going to see really the true capabilities of these teams, because that's really when it counts. That's really when it matters. And so, I mean, to the people that aren't watching women's basketball, what are you doing? What are you doing? Now's the time to do it.
Yeah, and that's why we cover women's basketball as much as we possibly can. These two are great with it, and we're just going to keep bringing the coverage for women's basketball around the Western Athletic Conference. Anyways, we're going to take a 30-second break. When we come back, Daryl and I will talk some men's hoops, talk some thoughts on the resume seating system, and we'll go from there. All right, we're back. Daryl and I are back. Chelsea had to leave. She had to take care of some things around Phoenix today. We're glad she was able to come on and talk some women's basketball. Oh, Ray Silva asked the question, any hot seats that are getting warmer? I'm going to have to do a deep dive into that because I don't want to be that guy. Like, I'm not that one that wants to create drama or create clicks or get somebody mad at me. Do I think there's – I'm going to leave that, Ray, for right now. I'll come back to that question. We'll talk about that. But if you do have any questions, send it to us via Facebook, by Twitter. The Twitter questions are actually popping up. I'm actually kind of happy about that. So if you have any questions, pop those into us. We'll answer them right now. Let's talk about the resume seating system. We kind of did it for the women before Chelsea left. We already took a look at that. I'm going to look at the men's. Like I said, GCU has the 1 seed locked up. Now, we can say that, is the case if they qualify for WAC Vegas, but I mean, it's pretty much a lock right now. I mean, they're 4 points higher than Tarleton. Tarleton, excuse me, guys, still trying to get over the congestion stuff, but Tarleton didn't play on Saturday, so they still have a game to make up in WAC play. But look at that. Grand Canyon has 4.92 points. And as someone pointed out, they have to lose 7 or 8 games in WAC play for that to even come down. That's not going to happen. I mean, they were down by 16 at Utah Tech on Saturday, and they won by 10, Daryl. Like, seriously.
I actually tuned in for the second half of that game, and they looked pretty impressive in that comeback. Utah Tech has played pretty well this year. That loss to Cal State Northridge is looking better and better right now. The Matadors are first in the Big West right now, undefeated in the Big West.
That loss to Idaho, though, is still looking really, 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 really bad. So I want to talk about that game. I want to talk about that GCU Utah Tech game. People say it was gritty, and it was a gutsy win by GCU, coming back and all that. And yeah, we could say that. I'm not going to, play that down. But was it a matter of being gutsy win or just flat out GCU just saying, well, okay, we're going to turn it on and we're going to take control now? Because like we've seen them come back from being down big in first half at Liberty. That was a little bit different game because they're playing a better opponent than Utah Tech. They had to come back to beat UT Arlington. They had to grind out a win at UTRGV. And, playing on the second game of a road trip to, the Southern Utah area is tough, right? And like Gabe McLaughlin said, they have the target on their backs every night in, night out, because they're the top team and everybody wants to beat GCU, right? But was it a case of them being gutsy and grinding, and not giving up? Or was it a matter of them just simply being better than Utah Tech and showing that in the second half? Like, I know you said you watched some of the second half, but that's all I think about is one, it was just GCU just flat out better than Utah Tech. 2, Utah Tech has a ton of youth on their squad that started turning the ball over there in the second half. And 3, GCU just flipped that switch and said, we're going to go. And they did, and that's why they had a 26-point switch in that ball game.
Yeah. And, winning, we talk about it all the time. Winning on the road in the WAC is probably one of the toughest things to do in college basketball, just because, we've got 3 different time zones, 5 different states, all the different styles of basketball. It's probably one of the toughest things to do. Was I shocked GCU fell behind early? Yeah, I was.
Yeah, but I mean, you're going to get everybody's best shot, like even right out of the gate. And that's the thing. Like, it's not like it should be a surprise that Utah Tech jumped out to a lead, especially at home, especially after a bad loss at Seattle U where they led in the first half. I mean, Utah Tech's been pretty good early on in games. It's just the late game collapses have been epic. And I don't know. That's why I'm saying it's like it's hard for me to say, gutsy win by GCU. I'm giving credit where it is. They're just simply good. Like that's Gabe McLaughlin. Everybody's been talking about Tyon Grant Foster, but Gabe McLaughlin has won like 3 of the last 4 WAC Player of the Week awards for the men's side. And he's been so good. He had that hammer dunk. Maybe I could bring that up and show that here.
I think that's what sparked their run.
Yeah, I want to see if I can pull it up here. Oh, that's the settings. But let's keep talking about that. So, I mean, it's just crazy. Like, just crazy how good they are.
I think the thing that Bryce Drew has to keep telling his guys is, though, you go on the road and you do that enough times, it's going to come back and bite you somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be that thought process, but on the flip side, they're also confident enough that it just doesn't matter, right? Like, they're going to win games and they know they're going to win games. And, but like you said, you can't keep doing it because you're not going to get away with it night in and night out, right?
Yeah, there's enough good teams with tough, road environments that, you keep falling behind by 10, 15 at the half. Eventually, you're not going to be able to climb your way out of it. I'm thinking, that road game at Seattle U is going to be tough.
Yeah.
That road trip at CBU is going to be tough.
Well, any trip, anytime you get away from home, though, is going to be tough, especially when you're the ones that have the target on your backs, right? Like this Thursday night, they host Tarleton. Tarleton's number 2 in the WAC, right behind them. They're both undefeated in WAC play. Maybe they got caught looking ahead to that game. I don't know. Like it's just we're gonna scrutinize GCU the rest of the season because of 1, how good they've been so far this season, 2, how good they are right now, and 3, the fact that they're getting talked about as a 6, 7 seed in some bracketologies that I've seen so far, and they've been deserving of that, and they're getting votes in both the AP poll and the coaches poll. There's going to be a lot of
30 votes in the AP poll, 35 votes in the coaches. Or
Yeah.
am I mixing the 2 up?
So people are taking notice right now. I want to show this hammer dunk real quick. This was disgusting from Gabe McLaughlin in the second half of Saturday night's game at Burns Arena.
And Tyon Grant.
Whoops.
Gabe's going to drive in. Slam!
We'll take that back a little bit. Look at this thing. This is disgusting.
And Tyon Grant Foster. Gabe's going to drive in. Slam! And a block! Gabe McLaughlin took it right to the hole. Riley was late getting over there. One-handed slam on the block.
Like, that's what he does on a nightly basis. Gabe McLaughlin, like I said, everybody's talked about Tyon Grant Foster. Everybody's talking about Ray Harrison. Gabe McLaughlin has been around for like 20 years, and I said this on the Straight Outta WAC Live show the other day. But, man, that dude is a monster, and he does it on both ends. He does it on the glass. He does it with his scoring. He's the glue guy that holds them all together, okay? He is the glue guy that holds that GCU team together, if we're being honest. Let's see. Let's answer this question here by Nate. By resume seeding the top 4 women basketball teams in cannot drop out of the top 8 for tournament by this form. No. So to answer that question, I may be a little confused, but I hope I answer it correctly here. Anybody can drop out of anywhere when it comes to the seeding system. Now, there's 8 teams that get to WAC Vegas, okay? So that's determined by conference standing. So what your record is in conference play determines if you're even going to WAC Vegas. Okay, so the top 8 teams in the conference standings go to WAC Vegas. Then the seeding is determined after conference play is over by the seeding system. So as long as they're in that top 8, they won't drop out no matter, where they are in the seeding system. So like, let's take Utah Valley, for instance. They could be dead last in the seeding system, so number 11, but they've won enough games to be in the top 8 to qualify for WAC Vegas through their conference record. They would be the 8th seed, if that makes sense. I hope that answers that question, Nate. I'm not quite sure if I'm missing the point there, but I hope I answered that question correctly. I think the top, if we look at the women's side, I think right now as it stands that I think UTRGV, Seattle U, and Utah Valley are kind of on the outside looking in. But that could change because we still have, like you said, 14, 15 games. But I think the 1 and 2 seeds on the women's side are locked up with GCU and CBU unless something drastic happens maybe this weekend. Tim has a comment here. Loves fan here. Since we came out flat, I do expect tough games at both Seattle and UTA. Yeah, I do too. I'm not going to say any game's a gimme. I mean, they're expected to win every game by Ken Pom the rest of the way. But, we saw last year, Seattle U beat GCU at GCU Arena. UTRGV beat GCU at GCU Arena. Who was it? Tarleton smoked GCU at Wisdom Gym. So there's always potential. There's always this opportunity for upset wins, Daryl, and there's a lot of basketball to be played, right? And even though they have the 1 seed locked up, you still just never know what could happen.
I mean, yeah, you still got the 1 seed locked up, but the GCU men have about as much to play for as any mid-major team in the country. I mean, receiving votes in the AP Top 25 and the coaches, an undefeated regular season campaign, which for the men, I'm pretty sure would be the first time they've done that.
Outright regular season champion. Yep, outright regular season champion because they shared it with Utah Valley in what was that, 2020, 21?
The COVID year, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they shared it with Utah Valley that year. The following year was New Mexico State, SFA, and Seattle that shared it. And then last year was Utah Valley outright. So GCU's never won an outright regular season title in the WAC.
Kyle, the first time they played UTA, was Philip Russell eligible for that game, or was that after the?
Oh, that came after.
Okay.
That came after. So that'll be an interesting matchup when they meet in College Park Center. If Philip Russell and Dejuan Gordon are back from injury, that'll be interesting. I'm very interested in Thursday night's game. Tarleton at GCU on the men's side. Both of them undefeated in WAC play. GCU 4-0, Tarleton 3-0. Joseph Jones done a great job with Tarleton, as the acting head coach. And, Tarleton plays tough. Tarleton plays hard. And, I don't think GCU can get off to a slow start in this ball game on Thursday night because it's a whole different monster that they're facing in that Tarleton squad.
Yeah, and we talked about Tarleton. I think that's probably one of the best stories in mid-major basketball that nobody's talking about. The fact that Joseph Jones has taken over for Billy Gillespie, who's on a medical leave right now, and obviously we wish him all the best.
Yep.
But he's taken over the Texans, and they haven't missed a beat. I think, what are they, 5-2? I think since he took over, something like that.
Yeah. So they went and won the SoCal Challenge. That was when it first started. I'm trying to pull up their schedule. My internet's being very slow right now. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so they beat Austin P, CSU Bakersfield. So they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight games before losing at home against Jacksonville State. That was kind of a disappointing loss because they had a double-digit lead late. And then they lost at number 8 Tennessee, but they've won back-to-back games against Loyola Marymount, and then they beat UT Arlington at home. They go to Cal Baptist on Thursday. Excuse me, it wasn't Thursday they're playing Grand Canyon. It's Saturday they're playing at Grand Canyon. So 2 big games for the Texans. Joseph Jones has been really good. Like I said, only 2 losses since he's taken over as the acting head coach.
And they're going to face off against a CBU squad that, quite honestly, has to be pretty angry about the way they lost that game at the Red Hawk Center on Saturday. At the buzzer, what were they leading by? 16, I think, at one point?
Yeah,
14?
they had a big lead. They had a double-digit lead at throughout the majority of all the first half and then into the second half, and then it just kind of collapsed offensively late. So, yeah, I don't know what to make of the Lancers right now. I've seen them twice in the past couple weeks, and I feel like there's a lot of talent there. It's just not equating to wins. And offensively, they haven't been really good. I think they scored 46 points in that loss at Seattle U. I believe they didn't hit 60 when they lost at New Mexico State. Let me look here. They hit 61, and then they didn't hit 60 when they played at Utah Valley on Thursday. So not a lot of scoring right now from the Lancers. But I don't know. That's a tough place to play too. Teams struggle there at CBU events, or it's the Fowler Event Center now. So we'll see what CBU does when they host Tarleton on Thursday night at the Dale E. and Sarah Ann Fowler Event Center. And then they got Abilene Christian on Saturday. So GCU does the exact opposite. They host Abilene Christian on Thursday, and then they host Tarleton on Saturday. But yeah, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun over the next month and a half, 2 months to WAC Vegas. It'll be interesting to see what happens when we get late into the season and maybe some of those teams, those 2 or 3 teams that, are, I don't want to say this. The 2 or 3 teams that aren't going to WAC Vegas have already been determined. What's going to happen in the last 2 weeks of the season. What will those teams do? It was interesting. I was talking to a fan on Saturday at Utah Valley. They're like, why would those teams that are already out or eliminated from going to WAC Vegas, if they have to go on the road somewhere, why would they even go? Why would they use the money to go when their season is basically over, right? Like that's something to think about too. Like we're going to see if they're going to play spoiler or if they're just going to throw in the towel and, be like, whatever, right? And knowing the coaches around this league, they're not just going to throw in the towel. Whoever is on the outside looking in. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
And when you're on the outside looking in, though, when you're in that 9, 10, 11, you're looking to set momentum for next year if you're going to be one of those teams that misses, WAC Vegas.
I would say yes to that. But the problem is with the transfer portal the way it is, with having new roster turnover and so forth, maybe 10 years ago that might have been the case, but now I don't think that's going to be the case at all because once the team knows that they're out, and if guys have already made up their mind they're going to transfer at the end of the season anyways, it's going to be a lot different than like getting momentum going into the following season. That's what we can say about the bowl games too. It's not like that anymore. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. We're going to close up this episode. Go to the WAC Hoops Nation Substack page, subscribe. You'll be a free subscriber, get to those 5 newsletters per week, as well as podcast episodes. We send these recordings out to our subscribers. Also, if you want, you can sign up for a paid subscription, $4 a month or $40 a year. Right now, 50% off your subscription for the next 12 months. So get on there, subscribe, show your support. We love all the support that we get. The interactions, the following, the comments were awesome today. Thank you for those. Also, if you have not yet made a purchase with it, go make your first purchase on SeatGeek.com or the SeatGeek app and use the promo code WAC Hoops Nation to get your first purchase $20 off for any event that they sell tickets for. Anyways, Daryl, any last words, any last thoughts as we close out this Taco Tuesday Straight Outta WAC live show?
No, just excited to get to Thursday night and another slate of waction, I guess is the term that they use nationally. But yeah, excited for a full slate of games on Thursday night. Hopefully it warms up in Riverside here so we're not have icicles coming down our noses. There was a frost warning in effect this morning, so.
Nice. Well, yeah, it's chilly in Utah, but I'm going to South Texas next week, so I'll be a little bit warmer and looking forward to that trip to UTRGV, South Padre Island. Already had people hit me up about places to eat, so I will be bringing some WAC eats, photos and videos and stuff like that. So everybody, enjoy your Taco Tuesday and have a wonderful day. We'll see you on the next episode of the Straight Outta WAC live show. Hopefully tomorrow we should be good to go, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Straight Outta WAC podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember to follow WAC Hoops Nation on all your favorite social media platforms.